I got back to Myanmar the day after yesterday. I've been here most of the last 10 years. Constantly in and out. There's an election in 3 days, and that's what this is about. Now me, I stay out of politics. I don't really care about the election. And this is Swedagon Pagoda behind me. You don't know it. So I don't care who wins, right? As long as I get visas, that's all I care about. But it's very interesting, especially with what I saw that makes me wonder or not if there's going to be foreign interference, and if so, how much. So I was here with the last election. Well, it was the one that the NLD, Aung San Suu Kyi's party, got elected, and they then presented her with a new office above the president. Right, because the military government had made a constitution, and it stated that people with foreign spouses and children could not be president, which she was. So she wasn't constitutionally allowed to be president. So they got their party's guy elected and made him boss, and she pretty much ran everything until the coups happened. And the media will tell you a coup. No, it wasn't one coup. There was a series of coups over a day. But within the first day, there was a number of them. But the media is very biased and puts it all in one coup. So media bias is a lot of what I have to say. So there's a number of parties right now. There's the military party, and most of the citizens are against military governance. Most of the citizens also don't understand what the benefits of military governance are. They only see how they get treated. And Myanmar people are freedom-loving people. They do not want to accept any level of freedom less than they perceive us Americans as having. Right? They don't want to be the second most free country in the world. They want to have equal freedom to us. Now, under Tatmadaw, under the military government, the biggest problem is, if you have some land. I've known people, right? I know one woman, she owned a rubber plantation. A general decided to forge a document saying that he was the landowner. She went to court, gave her documents, but the forged ones clearly won. So people get their land taken away. That's probably the number one problem. They get other properties taken away, get thrown in jail anytime they speak out. But situations in jail here is a lot better than most of the world. It's much more akin to the political prisons in India when they were still a colony. That's the thing. It's like, why would there be foreign interference? Well, the UK decided to give India independence. They did not decide to give Myanmar independence. They did not intend to hand Myanmar over. Myanmar was known as the jewel of Asia. They weren't giving it up. But the Myanmar people won their freedom. They won their independence, and that angered the British. So the British have been wanting to reclaim Myanmar all these years. They've been working to destabilize the country ever since. The media is so fucking full of their if you told me that you've never been to Myanmar, but you're a professional on the subject because you've read every single book and every news report, I'll tell you every single one of them is biased. Not just because bias is inherently natural, but intentionally politically biased. I can't give you my professional experience and tell you what I'm going to tell you, because if I do, those pieces of information in combination, YouTube will delete my video. I'm tired of videos being either deleted or shadow banned. So try to get around it. I'll give bits and pieces here and there. Not a structured, straight description. So I've done stabilization and destabilization operations. I'm not working for the U.S. government in any capacity right now. No longer part of the military. You see my dog tags because I have a health problem that got me medically discharged, and I have a high likelihood of going to the hospital unconscious, so still wearing dog tags. So I did stabilization for a really long time. And this one day something happened and I got pulled into a meeting, not realizing that I was getting pulled into destabilization, and I didn't go to the class for destabilization, but it was like the opposite of everything I'd already been doing for years. So it wasn't like I needed to really sit down and get all the bits, because like, this is what we do to stabilize a country. Here's what you do to target destabilization. That was a mind-blowing meeting. And if I worked on operations and destabilization after that, I'm not gonna say. My focus was stabilization. And Myanmar, I came here originally because a monk asked me to. I'd just gotten back from Afghanistan, got divorced. Wife met me at the airport, said she didn't want to be married to a soldier anymore, which I understood. I was married to the military. Anyway, once you learn stabilization and destabilization, there's actually a checklist. There's actually a list out there. You can find it. I don't think it's classified. These are the things you do. And when you go into a country and you can check box everything on the list right away, you know that it's going on. Who is it going on here? By the United Kingdom. Primarily. Secondarily, the greater Islamic sphere, largely Al Jazeera, but not, I don't know any direct connection to Qatar. It's more through Pakistan and Bangladesh, which was Pakistan. Right, their influence in the UK is quite deep. So all of the news media will give you all of this negative stuff. They never tell you the reasoning behind why anything happens. They'll never give you the government top midah reason why they made any decision that they made. And in their culture, they owe the world no explanation. Right? Myanmar is very interesting. Geographically, the mountains close it off from the rest of the world. This place is like a bubble. You go back in time when you come here. And I joke with a friend, like, if World War III happens and we all destroy ourselves, the people in Myanmar are going to be sitting around saying, I haven't seen a foreigner in 5 or 10 years. And the second guy's going to say, yeah, the airport's been closed. They can't get here. But I have no idea that we all killed each other. It's that far separate from the rest of the world. And they have their problems, and they don't care about explaining their problems to us. But the people who are against them have no problem explaining their perspective on the problems. So, with the election, this current one, I don't even know who's running. I don't care. I know who gives me my visas, and that's all I care about. And if you say, oh, you don't care about the suffering and all this other, well, you don't know anything about it. Even the people that are out there, I say like the Free Burma Rangers, they're not allowed to come into Myanmar from this side, right? They're banned. They come in illegally over the borders, and they only interact with the insurgent groups. Now, being an American veteran, I've met most of the insurgent groups. They seek me out. You know, I'm a sore thumb. There's not many foreigners here. And running a business where you get attention. So, I've met the insurgent groups. I've met them here in the city. I've met them up in the mountains. And I'm not going to say that what they are fighting for doesn't deserve to be fought for. But this is one thing the media will call them rebels, right? I grew up career-wise using the term insurgents. It is an insurgent. There are multiple insurgencies in this country. So, I don't support the freedom of any of those groups. Do I think that they need better representation and then maybe the country can stabilize? Yeah. But independence, any rebel group that gets independence will be sucked up by China the next day. Not even the next day, before midnight on the day it happens. There is no being an independent, landlocked country in the mountains bordering China. If you try to argue Mongolia, it's a whole different thing. So there's a number of parties up for election. None of the candidates are true opposition, right? They're checklisted, approved. So that's the thing that gets me, is why would anybody interfere with this election? We're not going to get anywhere, right? It's not like with Aung San Suu Kyi and they had this false hope that they were going to turn everything over because they blindly put faith in her. She's the most brilliant politician in the world, maybe. But in Myanmar, she would give speeches about not letting foreign influence into the country. Right? It's just because she married a Brit doesn't mean she was pro-West. She wasn't. So the groups, people have what they want. They're not going to get it through this election. The most they can hope for is something that brings balance and reduces the hostilities. If they were, people here want PDF and the NUG to win. The NUG are a bunch of idiots. I've talked to them. They don't want to create a fair and balanced country. They only want for them to get the bribes from China instead of the people getting the bribes from China right now. The international world doesn't understand. It's better to compare Myanmar to ancient Greece. These are city-states. There are certain families that have powers in varying levels in different city-states, but there's no one group that controls everything inside these borders. Never has been in all the history of the world. And all of these groups are warrior people. They live by warrior morals, right? And when you get into information influence operations, and part of it's Briggs Myers, but much more important is breaking people into two groups. Moral people and amoral people, because to manipulate each of them requires a different strategy. Amoral people is very easy. You bribe them, give them power. It's what the CIA does. Not just power, but whatever it is that they want, the CIA gives them. But sorry to waste time with things. I'm not a professional personality, obviously. So if somehow they were to win, it'll be like we had in Iraq, right? We destroyed everybody in the government. We took out all Saddam's people, and we had nobody that could run a country. Tatmadaw is the only people capable of keeping this government on the brink of stability and to keep China out, right? If the NUG wins again, China's taken over the country in no time. They have no idea how to defend a country. Until there's an opposition within the army, there's not going to be any change. I've told students for years, right, join the army. Problem is there's no salary. Right, if they would follow our model and pay very well, right? In the U.S. military, we got paid really well. 99% of us were never going to think of doing anything corruption because we had it too good. That's how you keep civilian control over the military. Keep our lives where it benefits us. So, I don't support any opposition, right? Tatmadaw being in power is the only way to keep anything in order here. But whoever wins is going to be somebody pre-approved, right? So what is the point? And why would I even bring it up? I came back to the country 3 days ago for the first. I was gone for 7 months dealing with medical stuff in the U.S. And the airplane was full of former military, retirees, 40s, 50s, a lot of them. And they weren't loser veterans. These guys were professionals. And then there were the Lotus State Department people. And the military, not just from there's US, UK, Australia, I saw French, Russian, like there's ex-military running around all over, and this isn't normal. Myanmar usually has no foreigners. This isn't Thailand. Right? Usually I can go 2 weeks without seeing another foreigner. And then you had the people, obviously State Department or whatever embassy, that weren't your normal State Department people. They look like the shitbags. And it's not just because, State Department people, they all want to join the State Department because they want to work in Paris. And this is considered a low totem pole post. Right? Only the people really interested in culture have any desire to be here. Most of the people in the State Department hate being here. But these ones are different personality type altogether. They were the kind that I think would do the amoral type that I was talking about before. So to see all these people suddenly arriving and running around, and they're gonna claim that they're here to certify that the election was free and fair. There's no point. It's a complete waste of time. All the candidates are gonna do what Tatmadaw wants. They're all pre-approved. Whoever wins, there's no advantage going to any other country. So it makes no sense to be wasting your time unless they got some weird scheme that I can't imagine. So I don't have evidence of it. It's just really, really suspicious to see these people suddenly running around. I'll end it there. So I'll add this. If you pick up arms against your government, no matter how bad your government is, you're an insurgent and you're a military target. There's no picking up weapons against your government and having a right to not get killed. That's just basic human nature. When we look at the numbers of dead published by the UN, it's been going on. There's a count just since the coup. First off, I'll say that despite having 10 times the population of the city of Chicago, the city of Chicago has 10 times the number of total homicides in the same time period. Right, Tatmadaw only kills select people. Okay, every once in a while they kill some innocents. It happens. And I think less of that has to do with instruction from above. I think more of it is the guys on the ground are amped up on drugs and make rash decisions. When you see weird things, mutilations and stuff, there's a drug here that's one of the side effects. It messes with their brains too much. But the UN accepts the numbers, the sources, the insurgencies themselves, the NUG. Well, NUG is not really the insurgency, they're the non-armed faction that helps and try to coordinate things, but they have no direct power. Most of the fighters are independent, with the exception of the ethnic groups that have actually been acting in independence forever. They were never conquered by the British. They were Christians, and they invited the British in. They took the British side against the central government in Mandalay in the 1800s. So they invited the British in, right? It wasn't conquered. Yeah, they'd have like one infantry company to police a whole state. They were guests. As soon as the British invitation ended, it ended that fast. So when it comes to the killing, it's not that bad. This is one of the safest countries in the world. And compared with other places I've been, like, it's a cakewalk. There's one bombing, outside my office a couple years back, say 100 meters. My first MOS in the Army was engineer, so I know a little bit about IEDs. This was not designed to kill anybody. It was designed to make some really bloody pictures, which it was 100% successful at. There are some really rash bombings now and again. And there's no job more dangerous than being Myanmar Army or Myanmar Police, because the vast majority of the population wants nothing more than you to be killed. So I'm not going to feel sympathetic. I'm not going to tell them that they're wrong for fighting what they believe in. But I'm also not going to say that they deserve tears and to be counted on a list of civilian casualties when they chose to pick up arms against their government. When you become one of us, you become one of us. You can cry, but it doesn't matter. So just wanted to add one more thing. The soldiers in the military, right? Most of the enlisted are not. Most of them are drafted, right? They're not career soldiers. A very few NCOs are, but most of the NCOs are people who were drafted, who just didn't have anywhere else to go. The officers are generally enlistees. I don't know of them drafting any officers, but of course there's social class with being an officer and the opportunity for corruption. If you look up, Myanmar corruption is everywhere. But the military, first of all military under general, the rank of general, is going to meet the definition of, the international definition of below the poverty line. I mean colonels. When you get to the enlisted, up to sergeant major equivalent, they're below the Myanmar poverty line, right? The people living on less than $200 a month. Okay, maybe someone as high as a sergeant major might get $250, but the enlisted, under the privates are getting under 100. So what happens is the good, hardworking people won't join the army for anything, and those who are forced into it are forced into. But for the officer corps, it's usually going to be those from the officer families, and they are already socially, morally exposed to corruption as a default. Right? They've never, since a child, didn't see another thing. But the people will never vote to give the military a real salary, because the people just hate the military so bad. So if any foreign power really wanted to help Myanmar to stabilize, the center of gravity is military salaries. All of the other problems in the government are related to that. I mean, you could expand it to salaries across the board, right? Teachers are only making $200 a month. But teachers are socially more respected than military are. So these people have no choice but corruption. They're virtually, literally on the edge of starving to death if they don't participate in corruption. I've met military that didn't even like it, right? That sure was they were drafted, but they didn't really support the government. What they do support, all the cultures in Myanmar, one of the things that unifies them is their detestation for foreign interference, unless they're Chinese. For some reason, Chinese are socially allowed to get away with everything. But anybody else never going to get foothold. Right, doing business here, you can't do business without being completely dependent upon foreign partners. If you're a foreign company, you're done. I'm sure they'll give you a license and you're going to go bankrupt, because people will never let you have an advantage as a foreign company. Right? And that applies. Like, look at Toyota. Toyota does not operate here without local partners. right? Lateria, all the international businesses. You've got to be willing to sacrifice a, a good percentage to be allowed to do business here. If not, you're going to be sued out of existence. You're never going to win. A foreigner will never win a lawsuit in Myanmar against the lowest low life. So the true solution has to come through mill-to-mill development, with finance being the tip of the spear. When it comes to fighting, these people have been fighting forever, their whole lives. Myanmar is a collection of warrior cultures. I think I said that earlier. Right? Regular people are never going to understand. When you deal with the moral set of them, outsiders are never going to be able to relate to them. I think those of us with a military background can, because it's just warrior society to warrior society. But you can't blame them for the corruption that they were taught from being a child is the way things work. Now, the vast majority don't believe that, and they oppose the government, and where do they get? In jail. They're put up with it. And Myanmar, if you don't engage in politics, it is one of the freest countries in the world. Other than you might lose your lands or some serious assets, like, they don't get involved in your day-to-day life. They will let you go and live and do whatever kind of craziness you want, as long as it does not get in the way and interfere. In a lot of ways, it's more free, at least for expat, it's more free here than just generally in the United States. The general everyday freedom, other than a few express ones in the Constitution, all right, they're not spying on everything they do. They don't have to. They got a whole different way of espionage. They don't need to track your phone. They can. The Russians run the IT, but that's not how they do it. They don't need it. It's not the best asset to them. Not useless, but these elections can go a few ways. Number one, it goes to the top Mada, extreme top Mada, whoever that is, and things stay the same. Or it could win to someone who is another party, but willing to work with top Mada. And they might find a level of stability, hopefully going back to 2014 to 2019 were like the epitome of this century, in the last 100 years. If it continues the way it is, with insurgency everywhere, it will never end up anywhere good. I don't think the UK has a plan in place to actually retake over this place if it all falls apart. Right? They're just going to do like they did to Hong Kong and let fucking China take them. Because the Brits are nothing but a bunch of pompous fucking asses. Self-righteous ones. They go around fucking up the world. Sorry, fought in a couple wars that is their fault. But Myanmar is not without hope. If they had one partner that was willing to put their own political agenda aside and just help, they won't be allowed to get involved in 99%, but the 1% that they could, right? And if they came in, promoting officer salaries that are the golden handcuffs that we have in the United States, if their army was fixed, that would spread through, stabilizing everything else. The amount of popular dissent would go down. I think people with potential and good intentions would start to join the military and try to change it from the inside, which right now I've told people to do it. They think it's the stupidest idea in the world because the salary's so low. And some of them I've told them, like, your family's got the money. You don't need the salary. But it's more maybe pride, maybe not being associated with the socially identified evil